Hi, in today's video we're going to be covering the chart of accounts. Now, accountants and bookkeepers tend to get really excited about the chart of accounts because we know how important it is and we know how much it can make our lives easier or the reporting much better. Now, but if you're not an accountant, you may never have actually looked at your chart of accounts before and thought, okay, hey, I can do something about that. So I can change it. I can make it better. Like, what makes it better, okay? So you may never have thought about this before, and that's okay. But what I want you to keep in mind is that if you're a small business owner using financial statements or you're wanting to look at your financial information, I want you to think about the chart of accounts and how it's going to help you get there. So the chart of accounts is going to help you organize. Now, think about it kind of like a filing system for your financial information. So in the chart of accounts, which I get into, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that it's called the chart of accounts, but it's kind of like a filing system. So this is your file folder names that we're putting each file folder that we're putting on each file folder so that we can go and put the expenses into it, and at the end of the day get data that comes out and reporting that will help us understand what's going on in our business that much clearer. So hopefully that's exciting to you. If this information is helpful to you and all the stuff that you need to know, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now you can click the little bell so you get notified when there's a new video. And we try to do about 3 tutorials per week on this channel because my goal is to bring you lots of great videos on how to use QuickBooks Online so you can start really using it with confidence. Also, if you're an accountant or bookkeeper watching this and you're looking to start your own business, but maybe you just want some more help learning QBO and/or bookkeeping, click the link inside the description either above or below the video to book a call with myself to see if I can help you inside of our mentorship program. So let's go ahead and start talking about the chart of accounts. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Alright, so welcome back to the sample company. Now, inside of QuickBooks Online, and today we're going to talk about the chart of accounts. So if you're an accountant or bookkeeper, you've probably heard the term chart of accounts before, but if you aren't and you're just trying to figure out what all the accounting lingo is, a chart of accounts is really just a list of all the different buckets that you can put your money into when we're recording it for bookkeeping. So when I say buckets, it basically means the accounts. And I know I hate to use the word account to describe accounts, but when we're looking at, let's say, your report, so that your profit and loss or your balance sheet, every single one of these line items is quote unquote an account. And some of them here are sort of bundled up, so you can see in these accounts here roll up to this larger account. And so these are really considered sub-accounts of this account, and this is considered sub-account of this account, right? So you can kind of roll them up and look at them in a different way. And all these kind of roll up into income, for example. So these accounts, these line items, the chart of account is just a list. It's just a list of these. And the really good news is that it's extremely customizable, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And there's a reason that we customize our chart of accounts, and you can find the chart of accounts by going to accounting over here on the left, and then chart of accounts is the first tab, reconcile is the second. You can find it right here on the chart of accounts, or you can just go straight here and go there, okay? Keep in mind, you can have a certain number of accounts based on your QBO plan. Now, it will alert you if you have too many accounts, but most of the time, when I'm working with a client, I try to make sure that people don't make too many accounts. Now, you can have way too many accounts and it can just get really, really confusing. And I'll share with you an example, sort of a standard that I like to see when I go in and I help a business and I'm trying to revamp the chart of accounts, okay? So I actually will make a download available for you guys for free, and I'll put it inside of our Facebook group if you watch this on YouTube. So you can see an example of one that's done, and it's just nice and organized and not too detailed, but it's detailed enough. Okay, so when you first open up a QuickBooks account, it will give you a standard chart of account, and it will also pretty much any accounting system that you have will do that as well. It will probably sort of default you into a basic chart of accounts. So you're not really going to have to add every single one of these when you first get started because there's just a basic one. Now, they're going to give you a standard version, and since this is a sample company on the screen, and this is a landscaping company, you can see here they've added some very specific accounts. So landscaping services, job materials, and then they have these very specific income items added. So all these have been customized for this sample company. For example, there's some things that just come very standard. So let's say a checking and a savings account. receivable inventory, accounts receivable, inventory asset, uncategorized assets, undeposited funds. A lot of these things are just, come sort of as is, and then you can either keep them or you can delete them. Now, there are some things that QuickBooks will not let you delete. But if you did want to see, let's say like this Visa card, let's say you're not using it. If you wanted to make it inactive and get rid of it, you could. So there you go. I just deactivated a Visa account because I said like, hey, that's something I set up, but it was an accident. Now, I don't need that account, and you can do that, okay? So if I needed to reactivate it, you can reactivate it, but right now, we're just kind of, I'm just showing you sort of how you can customize some of this. And the reason we customize a chart of account is because every business is different. And we can affect how the P&L looks, like how the profit and loss statement looks, if we change the chart of accounts. So we can also do things like organize in a way where like we may have our income line items in a certain order, and then we could have a cost of goods sold line items in the same order. So you might be able to see, if we're selling a product that is maybe say like t-shirts, we could put them as an income line item. And then t-shirt expense or cost of goods sold could also be in the same order. So it could just help us kind of organize and make sure that like things are nice and clear and understandable in the P&L. So sometimes like P&Ls just, they look kind of messy. And so it's a way for us to organize and also make things easier for our eyes and easier for us to just understand, right? So something to understand about QuickBooks Online is how they organize the chart of accounts. So the first thing it will look at is the type, and then the detail type, and then we'll go by alphabetical order from there. Now that there's a very standard like order of a financial statement, like income comes first, then expenses, then other income, then other expenses. And then the balance sheet's pretty similar, right? So you're gonna have like assets first, current assets, then long-term assets, then you're going to have liabilities, current liabilities, long-term liabilities, and then equity. And that's why like they first look at type, and then they'll look at detail type in order to order like what you'll see inside like the P&L and / or on the balance sheet. And then it will go by alphabetical order. So you've got the option of adding another way that you can order things, because I personally don't like all of my expenses, especially like when you get into the expense category. Like I don't like the expenses that are in alphabetical order. To me, it just doesn't really make sense. And so I'll show you an example of that like right here. So let's say we're in expenses, and so advertising is right next to automobile, which is right next to equipment rental, which is right next to like insurance, and then job expenses, and then legal and professional fees. And like to me, that's just kind of like messy. It's just out of order. Why why would I want my accounting to be organized this way? Like it just doesn't really make a lot of sense when you're looking at it at a glance. Now, I want to see groups of things put together when I'm working my chart of accounts. So I want to see, let's say like all of my office expenses in one place. And then I want to see my payroll expenses in one place. I don't want to have like payroll taxes because that's a P, right? So I don't want that showing up in a different place than salaries and wage line items. And that's, because that starts with an S. I really just don't like that, right? So QuickBooks does have a solution to fix that, and I want to show you guys how to do that. So you go up here like towards the gear icon, and then you can go to accounts and settings, and we're going to go to advanced, and there's this section to edit the chart of accounts. Now you can click edit, and we're going to enable account numbers, okay? So previously it was not enabled, and I just enabled it. And then we're going to show the account numbers, okay? So now that we have this ability to show the account numbers, I can go in, and this will become the default of how things we ordered based on the account numbers. So QuickBooks will still look at type and detail type, but it's gonna look at number before it looks at the alphabetical order of name. So what that means is that if I go in here and I want to edit my checking account, let's say I'm going to do like number like 1001, and I'm going to save and close. And then let's say I have another checking account, but this is my main checking account, and I want, that other one was just, I have it, but I don't really use it that much. So maybe I just want to add my main checking account. I want this one to come first, and I want this one to be, 1001. Even if I put, let's see if we can mess it up. Okay, so I changed the order, and I put the main checking instead of just checking, but I made the number 1000 rather than like 1001. So let's save and close and kind of see what it does. Okay, so automatically it put it in order here, right? And let's go and see like on our balance sheet what it looks like. Okay, so all right, so you'll see now that this one is ahead of that one. Okay, so the main checking, even though technically this C should come before M, we're going to default to the actual numbers. So what this means is that we can now order our income. So if you want to have a design income come first, and then I want landscaping services, right? But maybe I want pest control services to be like the second in line. I can reorder all these things, and that can be really helpful when it comes to just making the P&L like a lot more readable, and that makes it a lot easier and more useful to make decisions. So what I want to show you now is an example of a chart of accounts, and this uses a standardized numbering system. So again, this is something that I'm making available for free if you download it like inside of our Facebook group. Now, it's not anything that's like proprietary information. It's just something that I've seen lots of business owners use, this type of sort of like general code, and I've seen some modifications on it in general, but overall this is the kind of numbering system that anyone can take and leverage and use for their own business. So there's no like right or wrong to this. It's just sort of generalized, and you will see this practice in a lot of different organizations, and some of them will have slightly different numbering systems, but this is something that I've seen work pretty well, and this is what I use with most of my clients. So over here is just an example of the chart of accounts. Okay, so if you were to export chart of accounts out of QuickBooks Online, it looks something very similar to this. And I've done a little bit of editing here just on my own time, but it shows the account number, account name, type, detail type, and then any notes. I actually put these notes in here so they can be understood a little bit better. And then I've put a general code of what I like to see like over here. So typically I do assets in 1000s, liabilities in 2000s, equity accounts are in the 3000s, revenue are 4000s, cost of goods sold are 5000s, and then like payroll and stuff. For payroll, I usually do like 6,000, and all other expenses 7,000. Like any like miscellaneous, I do like 8,000. Now I've seen lots of people do lots of different things with expenses. Like maybe everything is in the 6,000s, and just they don't want to use 7s or 8 at all. And again, like this is totally customizable to what makes sense for you and your business. So for example, we would just organize as we kind of see fit. So I would organize my balance sheet to kind of say, okay, so I want my bank account to my bank account to show up first. So I'm going to make this number lower in the next number, and then the next number. And then when you have a bookkeeper and they're doing a lot of like accounting, it can make the bookkeeping much quicker by knowing these numbers and doing it like really quickly, especially if you do a lot of transactions towards the cost of goods sold, for example. So just by typing in a quick number rather than trying to, go search for the letters can be really helpful for your bookkeeping. And again, you can line it up. Let's say, for example, you line up your sales with the cost of goods sold that matches. So service line number 1 matching with like service line number 1. And you can use a similar like numbering system. And this is just something like, again, that I like to see. Okay, but this is where you can really get creative. You can think about like, what do you want to know coming out of the P&L, or what expenses would you like to see grouped together? So here I've put all my payroll expenses like grouped together, and then I have my banking interests and service charges together, and then I have like insurance together, and then my professional services fees are together, office expenses are all together, like rent, repair, maintenance, cleaning, office phone, cell phone, internet, all these things make sense for them to be lumped together, so you can have a very good feel for how much your facilities are costing. Like, how are they costing office supplies and materials like postage? Like these are just, all of your travel are lumped together. And again, this is going to change for every single organization, right? So now transitioning out of the screen share. So what I'm giving you here is just a template that you can take and customize to your exact needs, and so definitely like leverage it for the help, right? I've given you some of the best practices, tips over here, but leverage this and give it to your bookkeeper, or if you're a bookkeeper, use it, And if you're, I would recommend really working with professionals. If you're like a business owner watching this, like I recommend like working with a professional. And if you feel like your chart of accounts or financial statements just really aren't making sense, or it's just not giving the information you really like to see, in a way that kind of makes sense to maybe like, look at your chart of accounts and see how you can improve the overall like reporting and ease of like bookkeeping. Now, if you're a bookkeeper and you're having trouble with these things, or you just want to build your confidence, I encourage you to check out our mentorship program where we help bookkeepers and accountants start their business. Now, you can book a call to see if we can help you by clicking the link inside the description below and booking the call, see if we can help, okay? So, all right, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please put them inside the comment section. I will see you soon. Have a good rest of your day. Take it easy.